We got a comment a couple of weeks ago about the use of the Baphomet statue in our video. I wouldn't usually bother making a video response to a comment, but I thought this was an interesting point to discuss. It's true that Eliphas Levi's Baphomet, which is what you see here, is often associated with ceremonial magic. We've said that Shadowpath Diabolism tries not to use ceremonial magic symbols and techniques, and we stand by that. It should be said that the reason we avoid ceremonial magic has less to do with disliking the symbols it uses, and more to do with the fact that we don't like its association with Abrahamic religious traditions, and we see rituals that seek to bind and control the demonic gods as incredibly disrespectful. As Brother Nero has said before, the influence of Western magic and traditions like ceremonial magic are everywhere, and it's impossible to completely remove them from your practice, no matter how thorough you are. But for the sake of argument, today I, the narrator, speaking for myself and not for the tradition, will explain why I still use a Baphomet statue and why that's not the contradiction it might seem to be. While we're strict about what symbols and rituals we use when we practice as an organisation, we don't want to constrain anyone's free will, and we recognise that individual practice and personal symbolism may vary from person to person. Given the lack of a universally recognised symbol to represent Satan and the demonic gods, we encourage people to use what speaks to them, as long as they're doing it respectfully and with the right intentions. I'll use myself as an example. I recognise that Baphomet has a history with ceremonial magic, although the term has been used as a stand-in for the devil or an unacceptable god to worship since the 14th century and the trials of the Knights Templar. Even when the term was adopted and given its current physical representation by Levi, it was used in his work not only to symbolize key concepts of high magic, but also to represent the concept of the devil in the way a tarot deck might, as a force that restricts the soul from achieving purity. However, while I recognize the history behind the symbol, I'm also an artist, and I believe that symbolism can be individually subjective up to a point. Given the lack of any officially approved physical representation of the devil, I'm left to pick my own based on what I'm most drawn to. I feel that Levi's representation of a being that sits in balance between opposing universal forces is a perfectly apt description of what Satan represents to me. The symbol has a history of being misunderstood, reviled, and feared, and in some aspects represents concepts that Abrahamic religions don't condone, but that Satanic religions encourage. These are the points that matter to me more than the history, and while I would not expect a Baphomet statue to be used in a public ritual among Shadowpath Diabolists, for my own personal use, it serves its purpose. If you'd like to learn more about the history and symbolism of Baphomet and where it might fit into a Diabolist or Satanist's personal practice, we have an article on Baphomet in our summer 2021 edition of the Shadowpath Journal. You can purchase the ebook on Amazon if you'd like to read more about our take on the symbol. Shadowpath Diabolism is very firm in its principles of giving people the freedom and the right to practice as they will in their private rituals. So while we don't use certain symbols within the tradition, we're not about to tell someone what they should or shouldn't have on their altar, as long as they understand the history and the implications of it. But, all pedantic arguments aside, the other reason why I use my Baphomet statue for these videos is that it's not actually a part of my working altar, and I flatly refuse to post a video of my actual satanic idols on TikTok. That, to me, would be far more disrespectful than using Baphomet as a stand-in.